Today once again we are still handling the area of price theory, and we have seen our demand theory. We have also looked at the supply theory. Now let's look at a subtopic, which is the market equilibrium. And with the market equilibrium, we are bringing both the demand and supply together, so that where the two are going to meet, we shall be able to strike an equilibrium. In the market, there has to be an equilibrium because we are always interested in demand and supply, and at least we are going to see the reasons as to why we need an equilibrium position where the consumers and the producers at least are in agreement with regard to the demand and supply of a particular product or commodity. So here we have what we call an equilibrium price, and we also get what we call an equilibrium quantity. An equilibrium price, as per our diagram, is a price established out of the interaction of the forces of demand and supply in a free market economy. You can recall we had our socialist economy, we had the free enterprise economy, and maybe a mixed economy, but we find that it's only under the market economy that we have the forces of demand and supply determining the allocation of prices, the allocation of resources, and the determination of price for that matter, where there is no government interference, but you leave supply and demand to determine the price. So this is how the price and quantity in a free enterprise economy is established. We have our demand curve, which is downward sloping from left to right, obeying the law of demand, that at a higher price, less is demanded, yet at a lower price, more is demanded. And we have our supply curve, which is upward sloping from left to right, also obeying the law of supply, that at a higher price, more is demanded, yet at a lower price, less will be demanded. But now, when we are in a market equilibrium, all the forces have been brought together, all the suppliers have brought the commodity under in question on the market, and all the consumers have also come to the market to see how much they demand, and whenever they try to strike a compromise or an equilibrium, they are going to operate at point E. So point E, this is where we have our equilibrium. It is an equilibrium simply because demand and supply are equal at that point only. They are not equal at any other point apart from point E. When you take a point here, you find that at this level, if you look at the level of demand, demand is the one which is greater than supply. If you take maybe another point to get a quantity, again they will not be the same. One will be greater than the other. So if this is our quantity 1, you find that the quantity demanded is lower, yet, or maybe if the supply is higher than the demand, you find that the price is going to be a lower one, and you find that they are not equal. One is greater than the other. Whenever supply is greater than demand, prices tend to come down. And whenever demand is the one which is greater than supply, they are creating a shortage, the quantity available will be limited, and that's why the price will be higher at that level. So it is only at point E, when the two are equal, none is greater than the other, and none is less than the other. So there we say our producers and our consumers are operating at an equilibrium point, or they are in equilibrium as far as the market condition for that particular product may be concerned. So now, if this is the point of equilibrium, it implies that from 0 to OPE, this is going to be our equilibrium price. Why? Prices are read off from the y-axis, and we can see that they are equal. We are able to read off the price from here, and the PE is the price. So all the way from 0 to PE, we have our equilibrium price, where the consumers agree to pay that price and the producers agree to take that price for their particular commodity. And the quantity, which is equilibrium quantity, that is the quantity that is satisfactory to both the producers and the consumers, is going to be from 0 to 2E. So O2E, as seen there, is the equilibrium quantity where demand and supply are equal. Consumers are contented with that quantity. There is no shortage, there is no surplus, and the suppliers are also happy with that quantity because whatever they are supplying is being taken away by the consumers, leaving no output unsold and maybe not having any shortages where the consumers are still in need of the commodity but it's not there. No, whatever is taken to the market is cleared. It is taken away by the consumers. That is why demand and supply are equal. The suppliers are the producers and the consumers are represented by the demand curve. So demand, we have the consumers. Supply, we have the producers. Whatever is being produced is demanded. Nothing is left unsold. Nothing is left unbought. And both parties are very happy. Then we find that this equilibrium price is also known as the market clearing price, also known as a market clearing price. It is also known as a market clearing price. As already explained, every quantity which is brought onto the market is cleared by the consumers. It is bought and there will be nothing that will left unsold. It is established where the demand curve intersects with the supply curve in a free market economy. It is established, that is the equilibrium price. It is established where the demand for the commodity and the supply for the commodity intersect in a free enterprise economy. And we find that this is theory. It cannot happen. You can't go to maybe Owino market or Chikubo market and then try to establish demand and supply and come out with an equilibrium price. No, it is simply theoretical, but from this theory we can be able to derive what actually happens in the real world kind of operation. But at least it is established where the demand curve intersects with the supply curve in a free market economy. So what is the role of the equilibrium price? Why are we interested in the equilibrium price? Does it have any function in our economy? Do we ever refer to it or apply it at any one time in our study? So please try to look at the role of the equilibrium price. Role of the equilibrium price. So the equilibrium price shows efficiency. Role number one, it shows efficiency in resource allocation. In resource allocation. So resources are being efficiently allocated in such a way that there is no wastage and you are not creating any shortages or they are not underutilized. Whatever resources are being utilized in the production of that particular good, that good is just enough for the consumers. So suppliers are allocating resources in the most adequate way possible to produce an amount, which is the equilibrium quantity, that is going to be bought from the market by the consumers and leaving nothing as surplus, and the consumers won't be in need of that commodity, so there will be no shortages. So the role of the equilibrium price in an economy shows an efficiency in resource allocation because there are no wastages or shortages in the market. It also shows economic welfare maximization. Shows economic welfare maximization. It also shows economic welfare maximization. How do we know that now economic welfare is being maximized? We see that this is indicated by the fact that producers and consumers' decisions are the same. Consumers' decisions are the same. So producers decide to produce an equilibrium price quantity, and we find that that is exactly what the consumers also want. So there is some kind of synchronization of the decisions of both the producers and the consumers, such that both of them are turning, both of them are on the same line of understanding, both of them are happy with the decisions they made. As we have seen in the first case, that resources are efficiently allocated since there is no shortage or there is no surplus. So even here, economic welfare is maximum. Consumers who are going to satisfy their needs or wants are going to be enjoying maximum satisfaction out of the goods that have been availed by the producers, because the producers were able to produce just enough of that commodity which is wanted by the consumers. This role of equilibrium price is also important to the government in that it helps the government in its price control policy, or its policy of price control, where minimum or maximum price, where a minimum or maximum price is fixed by the government, either above or below, the equilibrium price. So if the equilibrium price is not there, then price controls may not be easy to establish or maybe to set up by the government. We find that the moment you have an equilibrium price, then government interfering in prices for purposes of either benefiting the producers or benefiting the consumers will consider setting a price either above the equilibrium or below the equilibrium. So the equilibrium price is very important in making government policy or price controls to be put into practice, because it is the yardstick. It is what is used to measure where government wants to establish the controlled price. Is it going to be controlled below the equilibrium where demand and supply are equal, or is it going to be established above the equilibrium? And who benefits when the price is above the equilibrium price, and who benefits also when the controlled price is below the equilibrium price? So we shall see when we come to price controls after the price mechanism that government uses the study or the establishment of the equilibrium price to set or control prices. So especially commodities which are basic to people and maybe to the government at large, and it wants to stabilize the incomes derived from those particular commodities. So that is the equilibrium price, but we also have an equilibrium quantity. There can be no price without a quantity. The two have to go together. The moment you have an equilibrium price, it means that there is also an equilibrium quantity. And from our illustration, we saw that the equilibrium quantity equilibrium quantity is O QE, again where demand is equal to supply. So that quantity all the way from 0 to QE is the equilibrium quantity, and it is again established where our demand and supply intersect each other. And this is the quantity exchanged when the market is in balance. Equilibrium quantity is, this is the output exchanged when the market is in balance. Not the balancing of trousers that we see these days in our youth. No, this is when we are in a state of equilibrium. None is greater than the other. Like in a seesaw, you are putting equal weights on either side, and you find that it is at a state of equilibrium, state of no change, state of no moving. So this is the quantity exchanged when the market is in balance, and it means that the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are equal. So here we are looking at quantities. One quantity is supplied, and another quantity is demanded, and you find that both of these are equal. So there we say we have an equilibrium quantity. That quantity or that output exchange when the market is in balance. When is the market in balance? When quantity supply and quantity demanded are equal. Again, there are no shortages and there are no surpluses. And it is the only quantity that brings together the equality of demand and supply in the market. Like we saw the price, it is the only price which brings together the equality of demand and supply. The same goes with the equilibrium quantity. It is the only quantity which brings together the equality of demand and supply. It's the only, I was saying that, like we saw with the equilibrium price, which brings together the balance of demand and supply, the same goes with the equilibrium quantity. It is the only quantity in a market or in a free enterprise economy which makes demand and supply to be equal. So it is the only quantity. It is the only quantity in the market, where demand and supply are equal. Where demand and supply are equal. So we can say that our demand and our supply are equal. And what you get is the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So where demand and supply are equal, what you get is the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity, as illustrated in our graph. We have seen the curve previously, and we saw demand and supply intersecting each other. So at that point E, where they are intersecting, we get the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. We can also derive the equilibrium in a market using the demand and supply function. If we don't illustrate, we can use some calculations. Equilibrium in the market. Equilibrium in the market. can also be established using the demand and supply functions. It can be established using the demand and supply functions. How? This is where some little mathematics has to come in. We have already seen that for a function to be in equilibrium, demand should be equal to supply. So we have seen that there are certain factors which affect demand or which determine demand, and there are also particular factors which determine supply. So all those factors, when they have come into play and have been able to come out with a given quantity supply, then the factors which govern demand are also going to interact and bring about an equality of both demand and supply, so that the two are in equilibrium. We can use an example. Let it be example 1. Given a demand function, given a monthly demand function, given a monthly demand function of, they are giving us quantity demanded is for that month 10,000, and it's given in a formula form minus 80p, where p is the price, of the commodity. So that is the monthly demand function, where our quantity demanded for the entire month is given by those values, 10,000 minus 80p, meaning that we may be required to find p, which is there, the unknown. And then we are not only interested in demand, but we also need to be supply. Then monthly supply function is also given, and it's given by quantity supplied, and we find that for this case they gave only 20p. So in both instances, p is given and our p is representing the price. So after being given those equations, they want you to calculate, go ahead and calculate the equilibrium price and quantity. The equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. It is quite easy. We have to know that whenever we are in equilibrium, demand should be equal to supply. Demand has been given, and this is the amount which is demanded. Supply has also been given, that is the quantity which is supplied. So we need to equate the two so that we are able to find the unknown, and our unknown in this case is the price. After getting the price, then we substitute into our formulas and we get both the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So we have here quantity demanded should be equal to quantity supplied. How much is the quantity demanded? We have we have 10,000 minus 80p, that is the quantity demanded. It should be equal to quantity supplied, which is 20p. So now we have equated them so that we are able to get our market equilibrium where demand and supply are equal. And with simple mathematics, you bring the like terms together. Bring like terms together. Bring the like terms together. Which are our like terms in this case? We find that in demand we have P, and also in supply we have P. So on this side we can leave there only the 10,000 and negative 80p. When it crosses and comes to the right, it becomes positive. So it's going to be equal to 20p plus, instead of being a negative, now it turns into a plus, and you add 80p. So here the like terms have been brought together. Those which carry p are on one side, and the figure with no p remains on the other side. And here we have our 10,000, which is equal 20p plus 80p is going to give us 100p. So now we have 10,000 equals 100p, but we want to find the p, which is the price, and we have to divide each side by 100. Divide each side by 100 so that you are able to get your p. Here the 100 cancel, and here these two zeros can go, and you find that the p remaining here is given by 100. So our price is 100, or our equilibrium price is 100. And after getting the equilibrium price, we need to know the quantity supplied. At what quantity will be demanded and what quantity will be supplied. You simply have to substitute P into the formula. If you substitute P into the formula, you have quantity demanded equals 10,000 minus 80p, but we have already calculated that p is 100, so you have your 100 there, which is representing the p. So this is the price, which has already been calculated, and it is there. So we are now substituting into the formula, and you find that quantity supplied is 20p, but p is, this p here is already 100. We want to see whether they will be equal. So here it is going to be 20 times 100, which is our p, or our price, as calculated above there. So here we find that it's going to be 10,000 minus 80 times 100 is going to be 8,000, and the equilibrium quantity demanded is 2,000. Then quantity supplied, we have 20p, and we find that 20 multiplied by 100 gives you 2,000. And we find that 2,000, which is demanded, is exactly the same as the 2,000, which is supplied. So our equilibrium quantity is 2,000, and our equilibrium price is 2,000 at the point of equilibrium, where we have our equilibrium price as PE. The price has no unit. We can't say that it is 100 shillings, 100 whatever, no. So if it is an equilibrium price, you just write the units without any kind of attachment, like shillings, dollars, and so on. Just a plain figure for that matter. So now our demand and supply are equal, whereby quantity demanded is 2,000 and quantity supplies is 2,000 at an equilibrium price of 100. Both demand and supply are equal at what? At the equilibrium price. So other than using an illustration to strike market equilibrium, we can also use calculations once we are given the information. Always remember that we get an equilibrium where demand is equal to supply. So whatever variables, whatever figures you have been given, equate them in that kind of demand and supply being equal. Bring the like terms together and then try to strike your balance. After getting the calculated value of P, then you substitute into the formula to get the equilibrium quantity and the equilibrium price. Let's have a second example so that we can get more acquainted with the calculations. Some may find that one example is not adequate for their mathematical understanding. So let's have a second one and see whether the theory remains applicable, whatever the case. Our second example, example 2. Quantity demanded, that is how we abbreviate, is 500. We are using simple figures simply for understanding purposes. 50p. So that is what the examiner may give you, that our demand function or the entire amount demanded on the market is represented by 500 minus 50p. Yet supply, quantity supply, they give you a figure of 50 plus 25p. 25p. And you are required to find equilibrium quantity and price. Calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So we have seen that to get an equilibrium, quantity demanded should be equal to quantity supply. So equate these two, where you find that quantity demanded is 500 minus 50p. It should be equal to 50 plus 25p. And in our formula, again, P is the unknown. We need to get the equilibrium price so that when we substitute into our functions, we are able to get the equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price respectively. Like we had in the first formula, you bring the like terms together. Here we have our 500 and we take away the 50, which is plain with no price. And 50 moving to this side becomes a negative. So you have your 50 there, which is equal to 25p. And now we are moving the 50p on the other side. And we find that if it was negative here, now it becomes a positive, and it is now 50p. 500 minus, okay, this was 50, not 500. 500 minus 50, we remain with a value of 450. Yet, 25p plus 50p is going to give us 75p. Now, p is the unknown. We need to remain with p on that side. And we find that if we are to remain with the p, you divide each side by 75. 75p over 75. And you also divide this side by 75. So 75 50 over 75 equals 75p over 75. Like we had in the other case, these two cancel each other and you remain with the P. And we find that 75 goes into 75 once. It goes into 450 6 times. 6 over 1 is the same as 6. So our equilibrium price is 6. It has a unit of 6. And what do we do? Now we substitute into our demand and supply functions respectively to find the quantity supplied and quantity demanded, whether they will be equal. So quantity demanded equals 500 minus 50 and 50p. We have seen that our p is 6. So you multiply 50 by 6 and you find that it is going to be 500 minus 50 times 6, which is 300, and 500 minus 300, the value you get is going to be 200. So quantity demanded is 200. Then what about for the quantity supplied? We do the same thing. We have quantity supplied, which is 50 plus 25, but now our P is known and it is 6. So quantity supplied is going to be 50 plus 25 times 6. We have our 0 there, we have our 12 there, and it becomes 150. So quantity supplied is 50 plus 150, which is 200. And we find that by virtue of the fact that we are in equilibrium, quantity demanded, 200, is the same as the quantity supplied, which is 200, and that is quite easily done. So we find that we can strike an equilibrium using these variables, and you can deduce and conclude that actually it is proper, or it comes to that kind of equilibrium, that kind of balance, that having calculated the equilibrium price, you are going to get an equilibrium quantity which is equal to the equilibrium, which is where the quantity demanded is the same as the quantity supplied. Consumers are in need of 200 units, and suppliers have also supplied 200 units, and the price of 6 is clear in the market of that quantity, creating no shortages and creating no surpluses in the market whatsoever. Let's do one last example before we go to something else. Which you would have calculated yourself, but you have as many as you want in the textbooks. Example 3 is telling us to calculate again. Calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, given that quantity demanded equals 24 minus 2p, yet quantity supplied is negative 12 plus 4p. So the procedure is the same. How do we get the equilibrium price? Equilibrium price is obtained where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. quantity demanded has been given, quantity supplied has been given, so equate the two. We have our 24 minus 2p being equal to negative 12 plus 4p. Bring the like terms together. Let's now assume that negative 2p remains here. We bring that p this side here. This was positive, now it becomes negative, minus 4p, and we have our negative 12, and 24 goes the other side, it also becomes 12 negative, so minus 24. And we find that in that situation, we have our p, this is negative 2p minus 4p gives us negative 6p, and we find that this is equal to negative 36, since all these are negatives. And now the negatives can cancel because they are common on both sides. Divide each side by 6 because we can never have a negative price. And we find that these 6 cancel, you remain with the p, and 36 divided by 6, you get your 6. So our equilibrium price is P. Now we want to get the equilibrium quantity. What quantity will be supplied and demanded at that equilibrium price? Substitute your 6 into the formula. To get the equilibrium quantity, you get 24 minus 2. Our price is 6. And then the equilibrium quantity, this is demanded and this is now supplied. You get your negative 12 plus 4, but P is already 6. So we have our, here we have 24 minus 12, and the result is 12. So our equilibrium quantity is 12 units. What about the equilibrium quantity? We have our negative 12, and we have 4 times 6 plus 24, and our answer is 12. Again, they are equal. We find that quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal at the equilibrium price of 6. 12 units are put on the market and 12 units are taken away from the market at that equilibrium price, hence having equilibrium in our market for that particular product. So you need more calculations in due course, and they will be helping you to understand.